Sasha Martinengo.
Storming down the pit lane.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time on bulls.co.za.
Kick us off this afternoon. If each of the provinces, think about this, if each of the provinces in South Africa was a kingdom, like the kingdom of Lesotho or the kingdom of Swaziland. So if we had like the kingdom of the Eastern Cape.
Woohoo!
That's where you're from.
I'm from there.
There we go. The prince of the Eastern Cape would be none other than motorsport legend Tschops Sipuka. Don't you think so, Chops?
I'm taken back by that, Sasha.
I think, you know what, every time I've come, I mean, listen, I've seen you racing all over the country, but every time I come down to Port Elizabeth and you're racing in PE or East London, you have the largest supporters, or the largest group of supporters I've ever known.
Yeah, look, I think motorsport in general has got a very serious following in South Africa in general. And all these provinces that seem to not be the flavor of the month, the flavor of the year, to say the least.
Yeah.
They've also got their own way of following, but we also helped here and propelled by the fact that we've got Ford, we've got Volkswagen, we've got all the motoring vehicles around the Eastern Cape, which is Port Elizabeth.
Listen, Chops, you're a very good salesman. You see, you should become the premier of the Eastern Cape. Never mind anything else. But yeah, Chops, we want to talk a little bit about racing, and we got to go back right in the beginning with racing. And I mean, I think Lewis Hamilton would have been inspired by you. That's how he got into racing, because you started a little bit before him. But you didn't start that early in life.
I didn't start that early in life, Sasha. I was never, I don't want to say I was never fortunate, because at least I get to live some of my dream and not obviously racing in Europe and or racing Formula One, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I've had a good shot at it, and I've given it my best. I still do, and it's been great. It has its ups and downs. It has moments of joy. It has moments of sadness. So you get the whole range, the whole spectrum of emotions through it.
And now the amazing thing, Chops, that people are listening to us for the first time, because we're trying to find out who all of our legends in motorsport in South Africa are. You have raced some of the most amazing circuits in the world in various types of vehicles as well.
Definitely. Circuits like Spa, Francorchamps, I did a 25-hour endurance race.
Yeah.
We did the Nürburgring in a single-seater. I did Indianapolis. I did Phoenix, Arizona, and all in the quest of trying to, push yourselves and discoveries about yourself, and try and see if you could make it in the international platform for motorsport.
And I mean, listen, besides single-seaters and tin tops, I mean, you've even raced trucks.
That is the highlight of my life.
Really?
I also couldn't even that is the highlight of my life. I couldn't really believe that trucks had the potential of doing 250 Ks when they were unleashed. Unfortunately, for South African circuits, they had to be governed for 160 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Because our circuits were never catered for super trucks. But it was quite an amazing, really amazing opportunity. And we did well, it still brings goosebumps to myself, actually, when I think about it. But it was quite an amazing formula and quite an amazing support with Mercedes-Benz at the time.
I can imagine. Chops, when you went, you were invited to go and do a couple of tests internationally in single seaters and those various different disciplines. How tough was it for you when you went over?
Sasha, it's never easy. The only thing we have as motorsport people and racing drivers, we are measured against a clock.
Yeah.
And it is that clock that determines how fast you are. And it's always one has to always search deep within to try and be quick, to try and adapt very quickly, because there's no second chance in this thing. So it has been quite a difficult time. It has been quite a rewarding time. It only becomes rewarding when you are successful at it. But what is challenging is the fact that South Africans still have to discover themselves. You know, we always think we are not the best of the best in the world, but I can tell you now we are the best of the best in the world. We are as good as they come. And within the years of South Africans discovering themselves in this journey, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of South Africans being successful in other parts of the world. The difficulty is about adjusting to the type of vehicle that you'd be driving at the moment, jet lag, the climate, and just having that little bit of fear within to think, am I going to be able to drive this car to the satisfaction of the team, and am I not going to make a fool of myself, because it has always been something that is different from what I'm used to in South Africa. For an example, when I tested in Indy, it was a different concept of a car that I drove in Indy, but the goodness of it came by the fact when there was a meeting of the minds between Team Meritus in Malaysia, where I tested the Formula Renault in relative speeds to close to what the
Indies were.
The Indy Light car would be. So it gave me a bit of mind movement and mind adaptation to what I can expect from another car of similar nature. So it made my life a bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, that's vital. And I'm glad you bring up the word mind, because a lot of racing, eventually once you get some kind of a technique, a lot of it comes down to the mind, Tschops. And, when you're all at a very similar kind of level of driving, that is what's going to count in the end.
It is, Sasha. It's quite an interesting thing, because there's got to be a balance between the mind and what you're doing. Because what normally happens is we are in the verge as sportsmen of trying to find the limits of the car and trying to find your limits. Some drivers are very fortunate that they can quickly find that balance. They can quickly get to that equilibrium. You take it in qualifying. Some guys are very switched on in qualifying. Some guys are not good qualifiers, but they're very good race winners and they've got very good racecraft. So sometimes you are able to get into a car and push, and when you just think you've reached the limit, you discover that the car has not got to the limit. So you are on this consistent verge of trying to find the balance between the car's limits and your limit.
Yeah, well, listen, I've watched you race many, many times, Tschops, and you definitely find that limit quickly. I mean, you're one of the fastest racing drivers I've ever watched, that's for sure. Tschops, you know what? I hate to bring up the color. But I mean, there are a couple of things that you have achieved that are quite amazing. You're the first person of color to ever receive provincial colors and Springbok colors or Protea colors. You were first ever black South African champion, and I think that was Engen VW Cup. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, Tschops, you do a lot for motorsport in your own. Besides racing, you do a lot, to try and help others. Where are our next talented black racing drivers coming from?
You'll find them all over South Africa, and you can find them all over Africa. You know, women always are associated with dolls, men are associated with cars. So it's always finding the opportunity, Sasha, giving people the opportunity. I don't think we do much of muchness in trying to put together an academy and training people on how to drive cars, aside from what happens with advanced driving. We never get to try and go out there and search for the next South African Lewis Hamilton or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So I believe that for me it came by chance. It was always a dream. I went and did the right courses at school, which was mechanical engineering. And it was just a God incident that Terry knew, one of my uncles knew guys that were friends with Terry, and I got the opportunity to test. I got an opportunity to do my internship with Volkswagen South Africa, and then from there I went on to a racetrack. I tested the car. I was 1 second off the pace, and everything has just grown there from strength to strength. And I think we can find that. We just need to search. It's just a pity that it involves a lot of money, but something has got to be done.
Well, I'm glad you say that. I mean, because it does seem that we don't have, as you mentioned, a sort of a teaching school to get, whether they be white, black, female or male, younger drivers the opportunity to actually show and hone their skills. As we know, in motorsport, it does cost a lot of money. But don't you also think, it is time now, Tschops, where we need some of the older stalwarts of motor racing who have done extremely well over the years to now put something back. And when I say back, I'm saying in developmental driving from a really, really young age. Are we lacking in that discipline?
We're lacking very much in that discipline. I think, Sasha, it's also got to come within. The power of change is within. When people are not very committed to the cause never really happens. But when people are committed to the cause, irrespective of resources or whatever the case may be, they'll thrive in that area, because as soon as other people around them who are people of influence can see everything is happening for a good cause, then everybody sort of climbs in the bandwagon and starts applying his mind and his resources in making it happen for other people.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, because I in the past 10 years, growing up watching guys like yourself, Philip Kakana was there for a while, Gugu Zulu was there, but I'm not seeing anybody else coming through, and it does worry me. It really does.
It is an area of concern, and I think it needs to be addressed accordingly in a very short space of time, by people applying their minds in what needs to be done to make sure that we propel something of such nature with tenacity, with care, so that it doesn't become a failure.
Yeah,
it's very important, because when you do things like this, they need to become a success.
Yeah, exactly.
And they can only be successful if people are very committed to what they're doing.
Yeah, very much so. Well, listen, Tschops, let's leave some of the heavy stuff besides. The last couple of years, you've been plying your trade in with Terry Moss Racing. You had VW single seater series, and then the last couple of years you've been in the Engine Extreme VW Audi team, and that's tough work, eh?
It is tough work. It's always tough, when you're behind the wheel. There's just no driver who's going to say, "Hey,
I'll let you through."
Take off for him. Yeah, no, it's dog eat dog, if I may put it that way. It's a very vicious cycle. You got to always be fit. You got to always apply yourself. You got to drive within your limits. Everything, Sasha, is happening under pressure and under enormous amount of deliverables that need to be there. But it's also very good to be associated with the right brands, with the right type of cars that have made their mark in history. Audi's got a very good reputation, and it is one of the best cars you can find out there.
And how's the season gone so far for you, Tschops, 2012?
2012 has not gone the way I would have liked or expected it to go.
Yeah.
But we're slowly ringing it in. I would have expected at least to be second in the championship, to say the least. But we've got to keep on working at it. Every day is a different day. If we don't learn from our mistakes or learn what went wrong, why couldn't we be there? We will always remain wondering if we could or if we couldn't. But I think what keeps me going is the fact that every day is different, every race event is different, and every race event I learn something new to try and tidy up my act. Sort of very easy car to drive, I must say. These cars require a lot of your approach mentally needs to be 110%, if I may put it that way, because you've got to pay attention to each and every detail that's happening in the car, and that helps. And fortunately, I think I've got a fairly good support within the team I race for. So I think it's just a question of time, and when that tide does turn, I promise you, it will turn. And we'll be up there again.
Yeah, I've no doubt whatsoever. Tschops, listen, it's always great to speak to you. I know your next event is in Pakisa in just under 2 weeks' time. So wishing you and the whole Engine Extreme Audi team all of the best success there. And let's make sure that the Prince gets at least one victory on the day.
Thank you kindly, Sasha.
All right, Tschops, it's always good to speak to you, my friend. Take it easy.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Gearz on bulls.co.za with Sasha Martinengo.
He's kept himself out of trouble.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.